Welcome to Southwest Florida Real Estate Update, hosted by area realtor Jim York and York Real Estate Group of Frye Realty. Our show will bring you the most up-to-date information about the local real estate market, featuring leading experts in the real estate field.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Southwest Florida Real Estate Update. I'm Michael York with the York Real Estate Group, and I'm joined today by our host Jim York and his guest Don Ross of Ross Title and Escrow.
Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. Well, Don, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for
month.
having me.
So you're all wound up today. So tell us a little bit about your company and what you do in Naples here.
Well, we have a real estate title company, Ross Title and Escrow, on the corner of 6th Avenue North and 41. It's right across from Pastrami Dan's. 8 employees. Been doing closings since the early 80s. Have a tax degree. I'm one of the owners of Frye Realty, the counsel for Frye Realty. So not only do I see all the issues that flow through the title company and my law firm, but I've pretty much seen every problem that's run through Frye for the last 25 years.
Yeah, what's unique about your company is your employees have been there for years. And
oh my, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about them.
Well, there's a group of 4 that are all related. They're all from the Midwest. I have a bias towards Midwesterners, even though I grew up in Boston. Janet's been with me 30 years, her daughter 20 years, her sister 10 years, her niece, who's only 22, 3 years. A family friend has been with me 5 years, and I have another lady who's the only one who's not related to anybody, who's been with me at least 5 years. So.
Yeah, it just says a lot for you, the stability in your company and how long they work. So today we're going to talk about new construction or new developments versus to look at their contracts, okay?
Right.
And maybe use you as their closing agent versus using the developer's closing agent. So when you're looking through a contract, just let's go through some of the things that pop up in your mind or some examples that maybe has arisen when you're doing a closing.
Well, I get a lot of existing clients or agents that I work with who ask me what would I charge to review this developer contract for their client or for them if it's a client that I've represented in the past. And the answer is nothing. I'm, as the attorney for Frye, I exist to help you make a living, and I'll review the agreement for free and go through the high points, what to look for. 30 years of doing this, you notice things that are there, you notice things that aren't there.
That's right.
It's almost like a Zen method of analyzing the contract. You've just seen thousands of these things that you know exactly where to go and what the issues are and what your past clients have been concerned about or have been issues. You know particular developers and the provisions they like to put in the contract. You see changes. And I think we showed on a prior show a developer contractor, but they're like that thick.
That's right, they're that. And it's all to protect them, not to protect that person.
It's to protect them. It's entirely one-sided, and you're dealing with people from other states and other countries who are overwhelmed with it and are familiar perhaps with the Illinois law or Connecticut law or New York law, but Florida law, they have no idea. So they'll call and they'll say, Don, do we need you to do this? I said, well, I'm happy to read it. I will point things out to you. I'll share some of my experiences with you. I don't charge them for it, but you need somebody. I mean, you absolutely need somebody. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, when you sell a developer product, I mean, what would the average price be?
Well, it's over $500,000 typically, but another key thing is also to bring a real estate agent with you when you go into the developer or new community, because sometimes the registration, if you don't bring a realtor or representative, they kick you out or they won't let the realtor come in afterwards. So it's more or less like we've talked on previous shows, it's a team effort. If you have an experienced real estate agent go in there with you, even though you're just looking, you might end up buying in the future, you need somebody to be on your side as the buyer versus the developer. And it goes the same way with the contract. It goes right down the line. Well, they want a captive audience to tell you what what they want to tell you.
People don't know that it costs them nothing to have you be their realtor.
That's right.
It costs them absolutely zero to do it, and it costs them absolutely zero for them to have me review the document.
Right.
And whether I make money on the transaction or not really doesn't matter, because you and I have known each other for years, and you send me other work, and I'm more than happy to help out clients because you send me work, and also
Right.
you're a member of the family,
Right.
essentially, with the real estate company. So to spend $500,000, say, and even question whether or not they need an attorney.
Right.
It's the wrong question. Should I have an attorney?
That's
Should
right.
I have my own realtor?
Right.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why? I mean, really? If it costs you nothing,
Right.
you absolutely should. It's a large number. It's a complicated contract. There's all sorts of federal disclosures. And there's issues that you and I have seen 1,000 times that they've never seen.
That's
So
right.
it's not prudent not to have your own realtor or your own attorney.
No, it isn't. So let's go into some things that you pop up in the contract that you've seen over a period of time here.
The first thing I look for is whether they allow you to have an independent third-party inspector do the walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trained in construction. You're a
Right.
contractor, or you were a
I
contractor.
was a builder years
so
ago.
you have more expertise at this than I certainly do. So if I were buying something, I'd want somebody with either an inspection background or a construction background to do the walkthrough, who will recognize a stress fracture as significant or not significant for me.
Right.
I mean, I'm spending X dollars, and I want to make sure I get somebody who really knows what they're doing to do the walkthrough.
Or prior to do an home inspection prior to closing, so they could find out some of the defects and have that part of the closing, that they'll do this punch-out work after
Yes.
after the closing, or hold some escrow money for that if they would even do that.
Well, even a non-developer closing, after the hurricane that we went
Right.
through, I'm telling everybody who cares to listen that when you hire your inspector initially, just ask how much to do the walkthrough for me, and it's usually
Right.
nominal money.
Mhm.
It really is. So even in those situations, whatever the person is spending, it's a lot of money to them.
Right.
And it's just not responsible, I think. It's not a prudent business decision not to have somebody to do the walkthrough for you for $50 or $100 who's
Right.
specially trained in the field. So, the first thing I look for is the walkthrough. I look for, who is the developer, because certain developers, do a good job.
That's
and they're
right.
easy to work through on punch list items, others not so much. How specific the plans are on what's being built. Is there a landscape plan? Are there, what kind of appliances, and is this what you want? Or would you rather have a higher quality? The HVAC system. We get our northern clients who are used to furnaces up north, and they come down to Florida and they don't know the little tweaks and whistles you want on an HVAC system down here versus New York or Massachusetts, where I grew up.
So a big part of it is understanding the specs that's in the contract.
Is that the guts of the contract?
The guts of the contract. So, okay, before we go into the next few questions
Sure.
we have here, let's just take a little short break, and
Okay,
we'll be back in
sure.
1 minute. Thank you.
Thinking of buying or selling a home in Naples, Marco, Bonita, or Estero, Florida? Think of the most experienced York Real Estate Group associated with the #1 brokerage in Naples, Downing Frye Realty, which produced $1.9 billion in sales in 2014, controlling 43% of all transactions in Naples. Jim, Michael, and Morgan York make up the York Real Estate Group of Downing Frye Realty. With over $250 million in sales transactions, they can offer you the expertise and trust you want and need in a realtor. Call them today at 239-273-6727 or visit their website, www.naplesyorkrealestate.com.
Welcome back. Don, let's go over some examples that you've seen when you've reviewed a contract.
I've seen some doozies. For example, this is probably a month ago. The contract reserved mineral rights to the developer, and it was a very lengthy clause on what rights, to to mine for what materials and whether or not the developer could drill on the property, which the developer could, and whether or not the developer could even store the oil or the minerals on the property. And
Oh my gosh.
it honest to goodness, was in the contract. Now, I've read, again, so many contracts that talk about mineral rights. The Colliers,
Right.
in the past owned practically all of them. But when I saw this one, I said, well, this is not like the one that I've seen 4,000 times already.
Right.
This is really unbelievable.
Was that a mistake on their part?
No. But because of the size of the
Right,
contract,
yeah.
it was just slipping right through. One I ran into recently as the attorney for the Downing Frye. One of our agents had sold a property, and I can't name names.
Right.
I don't really feel like being sued over this.
No.
But the deed into the developer had a reverter clause in it. That if any unit within the condominium or the complex was used for like a fitness center or a medical center or a rehab center, that the entire property would revert back to the grantor, the original owner of the property. And our agent was trying to get paid her commission,
Right.
and the attorney who found the defect is a friend of mine. I called. He actually sent me a copy of the deed a few minutes ago. I'm looking at the reverter clause in the deed, and I said, I don't know how anybody could buy in there. And I really can't say where
Right,
it is
yeah.
without worrying about what would happen in Unit 101.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
If they
theoretically.
converted it over, right?
Yeah,
Or
if
used it, right.
if they're running a Pilates studio that was
Right.
available to people who didn't live in the complex, theoretically it could revert back to the grantor. I said, well, that's unbelievable. A third one, there is a particular developer who I will not name.
Let me stop there, okay?
Okay, sure.
Would the mortgage company pick something up like that in the contract or
No.
No. Okay, I was just curious on that. So it is important to have an attorney review
Oh, yeah,
it, rather than if a regular person would just go in there and sign, but if they didn't have an attorney review it, they would have never known.
Well, this complex with the reverter clause, they've had quite a few closings in there, and this attorney picked this up. And I looked at it, and I
Right.
said, oh my word.
Right,
So this is absolutely
right. Bizarre.
bizarre, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you review enough of these,
Right, you know what to look for.
the odd things leap out and hit you in the face.
Right,
The things that are missing that you're seeing, for the last 30 years, hit you in the face.
right.
It really is sort of a Zen thing. I can go scan it real quickly and say, where the heck is, and I find what's missing, and then they, well, why is that missing? And then you can alert your client. So it's easier for me to look at things, and I can do it rather quickly, and then share experiences like this with the client so that they can decide what business decision they want to make.
What's the next one you got there?
Well, there's one developer in town who you buy something pre-construction, and under the default clause, they'll have listed as an event of default that if you list the property for resale before you close on it, that's a default, and you can lose your entire deposit. I know I'll never forget this because I shared with you before the show.
right.
I had a client, and this was probably 15 years ago, called me when I was up in Virginia at my sister-in-law's house, and I had to go out in the driveway, and it's the winter and it's cold, and he says, the man's name was Jay. And I'm like, what'd they say, Jay? That's in the contract? Well, let's take it out of MLS. So you don't want to lose $250,000. So by virtue of having been through a multitude of experiences like this, I look for that.
So people that's watching the show, so they understand, it could be somebody that bought something pre-construction.
Oh, sure.
And that maybe they're flipping it, or it could be somebody that bought it pre-construction and it was going to be done for a year or 6 months, and something happened financially or health-wise
Right.
that they decided, I'll try and sell it so I can at least not lose my deposit, because when you close, you have to close on
Yes.
it or you're going to lose your
Yes.
deposit. So that's something that you want to watch for,
I-
because
I-
things change in a year,
I-
or 6 months, or whatever.
Well,
Could-
they change, and if you sign a pre-construction contract and you're
Right.
closing a year later, it's going to go up in value.
Right, exactly.
And I've done more than my fair share of simultaneous closings, and there's
Okay.
nothing wrong with that. As
Right.
long as you fully disclose everything to everybody, it's perfectly okay.
Can you, in those contracts, are they assignable, most of them, or not? Because
They're
a lot
usually
of-
not.
That's
They
what I
want-
thought.
They don't
Right.
want you competing with their unsold product.
So,
But you can sign a contract that
have
is
another closing at
subject
the
to the
same time.
simultaneous closing of the closing with the developer. And I would even add language in there that the money from buyer number 2 can be used to be paid the developer. And I'd
Right.
actually have buyer 1 and buyer 2 at the table when we're doing the closing.
So what we've done over years ago, okay, not recently, but
Mm-hmm.
we did a developer, and a lot of our investors were flipping, like you were talking
Sure.
about, and they didn't have the clause that you couldn't put it in MLS, that
Right.
developer, but we put in the contract title to be determined, okay, and that got us around what you're talking about. So
You
we
slipped that one through,
We
huh?
slipped that one through. And they weren't too happy because it
No.
was like 4 deals that we did, and they just thought
Well,
that
you
we
people from
we
New
weren't
York.
we weren't sure we were going to do it in an LLC or how we were going to title it. So, but it all worked out for the best. They made money, we made money, and the developer sold their property and brought up the values in their area. So.
Well, there's another one that I've seen quite a bit where the contract will specify that if you resell it within a certain time period, that the developer has the right to repurchase it for
Right.
the original purchase price minus certain closing costs, because they don't want the initial buyer flipping it.
Right.
They're trying to establish a vibrant community where people are actually going to live there and send their kids to school. They're going to go to work from this place. So it makes it easier for them to sell the rest of the community. We had certain communities right on the cusp of the recession where it was all investors buying, and then when the recession hit, values in one, and I won't name it, went from 300 and something thousand to like 160,
Right.
because it was all investors.
That's right.
So developers very much look at communities like they're living human beings. They're trying to bring it to life. They
Right.
want people to sink their roots into the area and send their children to school and go to work so that the rest of their product will sell and they'll continue to make money.
The other thing we've seen in some of the contracts is that they, or the documents or wherever, is that they can't have a for sale sign on their property or do open house signs. So that's something that, after they bought it and they closed on it, and that, for some reason they need to sell it because they're, could be that they want to build another home that's bigger in the development,
Right.
or for health reasons, or they want to move back with their grandchildren up north, that it puts a limit, it limits them on the exposure of their house if we sell it. No for sale sign, no open house sign. Some of them have that you can only do an open house once a month, not even during the week, or it's pretty sad when we have a listing now that's several that are 500,000 and above, up to 700,000, and the developer, you can't have a sign in the yard, or you can't put open house signs out there. So it's pretty hard to market it where people come out and look at properties on Sundays, and
Yeah.
if you're not right on the main road and you're in the back, how are they going to find you? And you got
Well-
to go through a gate. So
The lawyer will help point that out. The realtor
Right.
who's done a number of these will help point this out. But beyond that, one of the other things we look at is a lot of times a buyer will get an incentive, some sort of credit, if they use the lender's lender
Right.
in their title company. And I always ask my client, well, how long do you intend to live there? What interest rate are they quoting you? Because of the time
Right.
period that it's going to take to build the place, it's very difficult to lock in a rate. It's almost impossible. But I point out if you're just going to sell it in a year, it might be worthwhile. Check
Right.
with your own lender and what their rate is versus the developer's lender. I point out that these are affiliated with the developer makes money.
Or the points that is for the loan.
So if it's an eighth
Right.
of a point difference and you're going to live there 10 years, you can do the
Right.
math on the size of the loan and how much money is that costing you. Is it more than the credit they're giving you?
Right.
So depending upon how long you're going to be there, what the interest rate is, some people, if they're buying something really expensive, they don't mind paying their own title insurance.
Right.
Because they're spending X dollars and they want their person to look at it, and they're
Right.
used to making sophisticated business decisions, so they'd rather pay somebody and get the peace of mind, let them do the title, to look at all the exceptions to the title policy, pick up whether there are any reverter clause, pick up whether there are any use restrictions, pick up on whether or not they can drill in your backyard or put, storage containers. This actually said storage containers they can put in the property. So they'll spend the money. I mean, they realize the benefit that if you're spending X dollars, you need to protect your investment by hiring the appropriate, realtor, lawyer, whatever the professional might be,
Do a good
to protect your
comparison.
investment.
Right. Yep. Mhm.
Because they're buying from another state for
Exactly.
the most part.
Yep. Well, Don, we're going to take a little short break. We're going
Okay.
to come back and we're going to talk about your website and how people can go on your website and really get an analysis of what its closing costs are going to be, maybe.
Oh, okay.
We'll be right back.
Looking for a real estate closing agent in Southwest Florida? Ross Title and Escrow has over 25 years experience and has closed over 20,000 residential real estate transactions. Donald Ross Jr., president of Ross Title and Escrow and a practicing attorney in the state of Florida with a degree in taxation, is here to service your needs. Call Mr. Ross or one of our 4 closing agents for a free consultation today.
Welcome back. Well, Don, you have a very interesting website. So, it has a lot of good information. It has some of our past shows on it. It has some of your columns that you do, and has a list of all your closers and all their information
Right.
with direct phone numbers. But one of the interesting things is in the bottom corner, right? In the bottom right corner.
Get a quote.
Get a quote. And what's the get a quote?
Well, again, I grew up in the real estate business. My father was a builder, then he was a realtor, and I learned at an early age that you do a lot of your work on Saturdays and Sundays and nights,
Right.
where it makes it impossible for you to reach someone to ask how much is it going to cost in closing costs for my buyer or for my seller. A lot of people won't sign a contract or make an offer unless they have some vague idea of what it's going to cost them, what they're going to net out of it. So in an effort to help the realtors, and also in an effort during the week to lower the work burden on my ladies, who are being asked quite often, could you do a pro forma closing
Right.
statement for somebody if they're spending $500,000 to buy this condo, and doc stamps and title insurance and the normal fees? We came up with an app, which if anybody wants it, they just shoot me an email, and I know the email is broadcast underneath our faces on
Right.
the show. Or they can just go to rosstitle.com, www.rosstitle.com. In the right-hand corner, there's a little yellow-orange thing, get a quote. And it's meant to help sellers, buyers, and realtors to get an estimate if they're selling, what their normal closing costs are, if they're buying, what are their normal closing costs, because most people want to know how much is this going to cost me with everything.
With everything,
Or
right.
how much am I going to get if I sell? I
That's-
want all the expenses out. What am I going to end up with?
Right.
Before they make a decision on whether or not they sign an offer if you're with somebody on a Saturday, or they sign a listing agreement with you.
That's right.
You're there Sunday afternoon. You need to be able to show the seller who's skeptical, who doesn't understand doc stamps and prorations and whatnot. Now, what I tell the agents, and we had a meeting yesterday actually for new agents, I say it's there, and you always tell people that this is an estimate. Because you're not going to have, unless you have these things at your fingertips, you won't know the real estate taxes necessarily, so that it will be prorated. You
Right.
might not know the maintenance fees off the top of your head on a Sunday afternoon, so that might not be prorated.
Right.
You might not know HOA fees, things like that. But this will show your commission. It'll show the dock stamps on the seller. It'll show that if there's a mortgage, what the dock stamps and intangible taxes are on the mortgage. It'll show the closing fees for Ross Title. This is exactly what we charge for a cash deal or a mortgage deal. So they will be very close to knowing exactly how much this is going to cost them in full, or very close to knowing how much they're going to walk away from the closing table with in full. Very close. It's just the prorations usually aren't there, but all the little Mickey Mouse fees and the dock stamps and the intangible tax and the commissions and so forth are there. And again, it's just Ross Title. And we also have like your shows. It's under education. I have all 8 of us there, so you can email us directly. If you have anybody can call me and ask a question. I answer all questions. They don't have to be a client. They don't have to pay me. So you just email. It has important contact information in both Collier and Lee County for various governmental agencies that people from another state might want to get in touch with. The articles aren't there because title companies aren't supposed to be giving legal advice.
Right.
I have a law firm that gives legal advice, and those articles, if somebody asks me for them, I'll shoot them one, but they go out to you and other realtors, and they're on an intranet website at Downing Frye. But those are constantly being updated because of the changes in the law and so forth. Changes in contracts.
Yep.
We had 2 of those this year. So that's really it on the Ross Title. Get a quote. So if you're looking at property on the weekend and you want to know how much it's going to cost you or how much you're going to get, use that. You don't need a username. You don't need a password. It's very simple.
Yeah, it's very user-friendly.
It's very user-friendly.
Well, thanks for coming on the show today, Don, and we'll see you next month on our update. And thank you for tuning in today. Thank you.